trying to put my thoughts together for Hood to Coast run a few weeks ago. So I figured I'd just do it during one of my normal morning runs on the weekend. Usually when I'm on a run, I think a little bit better. So let's see how this goes. So I guess the first part about Hood to Coast is not even the race itself, it's the preparation for it. In recruiting, I say that the real race is getting 12 people together, and that now I know how Jesus feels. I think one of his most underrated miracles is getting 12 people to stick together for a whole year, much less 3, right? I always joke about that because everyone has different plans. Everyone's busy, you have to commit to it like in October. The race isn't until the end of August, and just the way life is and people's commitments are, get sick or injured, naturally people are going to drop. And I don't think there's really much you can do by the time June or July comes around. It's always a scramble. The other logistical thing is getting volunteers, vans, etc., etc. So just take a little bit of money, and we really rely on the generosity of the runners too, because the registration is like $2,000, but it adds up quickly. If people don't have vans, we have to rent them, or a place to stay, then we might have to rent like an Airbnb or something like that. So we also rely on the generosity of our family and friends. So I think that's the first thing I really want to say, because it is a bit of a feat. We couldn't do it without them. As for the race itself, I think this year we started at 6:30 in the morning. And I think the way they want to arrange the heats is they let the slower teams go first and the fast teams go last, because I like the chaos in the middle, which is fine. That's the fun part. Usually around 6 o'clock, that's when the news crews arrive. It's fun seeing the cameras and whatnot. And usually leg 1 at the top, Mount Hood, specifically at Timberline Lodge. It's a bit of a zoo. I like to be there like 45 minutes at least before our start time, because it gives a runner a little bit of time to warm up, settle in. It's kind of an exciting time for the whole team. Also, logistically, we need to do a safety check-in. They need to make sure that we have all the safety stuff that's required in the van. And once that happens, then they give us the slap bracelet for us to go. So that's why, just logistically, you don't know what's going to happen. So there's some footage of us in the news doing like the cha-cha shuffle and stuff. DJ's there. They know what's happening. And their job is just to keep people excited. I mean, we were there for like the start line for maybe 10 minutes. But imagine they have to be there from like 2 o'clock in the morning all the way up until the evening when the elites start. So I'm hoping that they take shifts and stuff. But yeah, keeping that energy up for hours at a time must be difficult. I'd say the same thing goes for the people at the end. So here's the kind of the nitty-gritty of the race report. I think legs 1 through 3, it was so early in the morning, was cool, like maybe like right now, like in the 40s or 50s, and mostly downhill, so really juiced up everyone's numbers. People running, I don't know exactly, but like sub 7-minute miles or whatever, you know. And that's great. It's great to see. It's great to see people excited about things they can do. It was like tale of two halves of the van though, because once we got to leg 4, the course flattened out. Leg 4 is like a 7-mile leg. It's starting to get warmer, so around 10 o'clock in the morning, that's when things aren't so easy. You start struggling. Myself included. Got out to like the 70s when I ran. That was like leg 6. Kind of general rule of thumb is whenever you're running, then it's going to feel like 20 degrees warmer than it really is. So 72 degree weather, it's going to feel like 92 degree weather. And I wasn't prepared for that. Whew. Brought some water, but it wasn't enough. But the great thing about Hood to Coast is there's always like neighbors or kids or whatever side of the course, either handing out water bottles, spraying you with a garden hose or whatever, especially when it's hot. And it was hot. It was kind of a heat wave through the Portland area. I always say that like everyone gets on the struggle bus at least once, or they don't meet their expectations or whatever. And I guess for me it's for the first leg. I think I did like the first 2 miles just fine, but then just considering my medical history, I had collapsed just like 2 months prior to this, so I didn't really want to push it, end up in the ER again. First collapse wasn't due to running either, though, but for my wife's sake, didn't want to go back there. So I started walking. Whenever my heart rate got past 180, it took me a while, like 2 or 3 minutes, to get it down to under 150, and then it would feel like I'd run like a quarter mile or something, and then it would shoot back up to the 180s again. Just rinse and repeat for like the next 4 miles or something like crazy like that. Once I got into downtown Sandy, though, it was mostly downhill. I knew it was good, so I kind of pushed it to the end to get to the first major exchange, to get this little slap bracelet thing to runner 7. Because I also knew it was only going to get warmer. I think the high temperature for the day was like 92. So the sooner I got to the end of my leg, that meant potentially the less time Van 2 had to be in direct sunlight during like the hottest time of the day. That's kind of the trade-off. I think Van 1 has to wake up stupid early. In this case, you had to wake up at like 3 o'clock in the morning to get there on time. Van 2 gets to sleep in, so maybe 8 or 9 o'clock. But the trade-off is, first day at least, you have to run during the hottest part of the day. That stinks. So after we finished our legs, then we went over to my house. We ate. I think it was just like rice, eggs, some bacon, and some watermelon, banana, coconut water, just simple things like that. The night previous, we were at a friend's house and she gave us like mountains of like pasta, pizza, and stuff like that. And honestly, it was a little bit rich, so I didn't even eat a lot of it. I think I had a lot of pre-day race nerves and stuff like that too. So in my house, it was just simpler the better. I went showered up. I got to clean the van a little bit, and I think around like 4 or 5. Like 4 or 5, we drove up to OMSI. It's another thing. Like, I always want to respect the runners of Van 2. And part of that is getting to the major exchanges in time. And so even if the projected time is like 6, there's no way they're going to get there before 6. I try to get there like 5:30 or 5:45. Again, so we could settle in. And also hope for the best. Maybe they're going to crush it and get like 6-minute miles or something. I always have to prepare for that, because sometimes people do like go way crazy fast, way faster than the projected times. So I need to account for that. Anyways, just the way things go, it took us around 6 hours to finish our leg. And likewise, it took Van2 about 6 hours to finish our leg. So we made it to downtown Portland at OMSI to make the evening news. Some cameras caught us. And the way our captain is, she's kind of like a human hype machine. So like I was like, nope, they're gonna get her, guaranteed. And they did. So that was kind of fun. So at the exchange, that's when Van2 goes and does what we did. They go back to the Airbnb in North Portland. They sleep, they have dinner, they get cleaned up. I told them, well, we think we're going to be done in 6 hours too. So if you don't hear from us by like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, get out there to Scappoose. I think it's the fairgrounds. It was all good. We finished the legs. And honestly, like the legs between 13 and 18. 13 is probably the nicest looking one because you're going through like downtown. You see the riverfront, you get to cross the Tilikum Bridge. But like 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, there's really not much to look at. I think for the majority of it, you're just going down Highway 30. And then it gets dark, so you can't see anything anyways. And the parking gets kind of ridiculous too. There's a little bit of extra anxiety because you don't want to hit anybody, really know where to park. Volunteers are telling you just to circle around. It's kind of a mess. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I'll correct it like in the little captions below. But it was, I think exchange 15? Yeah. So exchange 15, where runner 16 starts and ends at Scappoose High School. It's just like a way station for big trucks, and there's like no parking there. We had to circle around a couple times because the volunteers were like, well, the runner's not going to be here in like 10 minutes, then we're going to ask you to keep going. And that kind of annoyed us. So the next time, I think what we're going to do is we're going to park like, there's a bunch of cars that did that too. There's like natural little shoulders with maybe parking for like 2 or 3 cars. We might just wait there. And then for like short distance to the exchange, we'll just send a runner 16 out to the exchange. That also gives an opportunity to kind of provide a little pit stop for runner 15. Water, whatnot. Not that scenic, but it's okay. It got a lot cooler, which was good for me. My leg was 18. I ended up being the end. So I drove most of the time. And then I think Diana ended up driving, well, when I was running, number one. And number two, most of the time when we were done with our legs. Because I think it's implied that like runner 6 or runner 12, they're probably not in much of a condition to run or drive after their leg is finished. So runner 5, Rebecca, she really liked her leg 17 because it was a straight shot. It was cool, middle of the night. I guess that's kind of male privilege for me. Like, probably women shouldn't be running in the middle of the night on the side of a road. So she said it was like one of her only opportunities to do so. So she loved it. For me, I'm like, I've done 17 before. But it's just different perspectives, and you know, I need to be more aware of that. But anywho, did 18, I think it was only like 4 miles. So don't have any GoPro footage of that just because it's like dark. Hard to get good footage when it's dark. So instead of my GoPro, just waving on my lightsaber. Just for fun. I don't recommend it because it's a couple pounds. It starts weighing on you after like 5 minutes. And you can't do anything about it, so whatever. But I figure if it's the middle of the night, it's easier to see me. And also at the Exchange 18, they were able to spot me right away. So that's part of it. And there's gonna be footage. Yeah, there's gonna be footage of all the exchanges. Everyone took pretty good video. People exchanging the little slot bracelets. So I'm gonna put that in the B-roll here. It's plenty of good footage of people at the exchanges, and that's fun. I think after a while, especially during the second legs, people are just tired. The energy isn't quite the same as it is the first day. So understandably, more people are interested in sleeping, and I'm guilty of that. Sometimes though, if there's space, I'll try to pace my runners in, get them some hype music, whatnot. But anywho, after we finish 18, that's where we drive into like the middle of nowhere. I don't know exactly where it is. I want to say like somewhere close to Jewel or Mist or something. But any event, we drive to Exchange 24. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. We're expecting van 2 by the same cadence to get to where we're at by like 7, which means I gotta get up probably around 5:45 or 6 so I could get into radio contact with van 2. But yeah, 1 o'clock in the morning. Takes us almost an hour to get to the actual exchange because it's like 45 miles away, maybe 40 miles away, whatnot. So that was a struggle. So we don't actually get there till 2, and it takes us about 30 minutes to settle in, get our sleeping bags out, sleep in the ground, which I feel is more comfortable than sleeping in the van. I always let the ladies choose where they want to sleep. If they want to sleep in the van, then they get first dibs. But you're never super comfortable in the van. You don't get to stretch out your legs or anything like that. And it gets humid because the ventilation isn't great, so you have to open up the windows. And then it's just as cold. So we were just so tired that I fell asleep pretty quick. And I was worried. I'm always worried that I won't wake up in time. So I think I got like maybe 2 or 3 hours of good sleep. That was about it. And I got up and rallied everyone together. Get a runner number 1 ready to go to meet runner number 12. Alright, she's coming in. We take off. We kind of just had to abandon runner number 1 though, because the leg was only 4 miles, and sometimes it takes 10-15 minutes just to get out of the stupid parking lot because it's busy. People are coming in, coming out, and we have to wait for runners to run by. We don't want to run them over, so we just had to leave them because by the time we got out of the parking lot, you may already be halfway to the next exchange. So felt kind of bad, but he was with the van 2 peeps for maybe 10 minutes or so, and off he went. And off he went. And he exchanges again. And again, exchange 30 is kind of where we ended, but on the way there, I think as runners finished their last legs, felt just the van felt visibly less tense, less anxious, because they're done. They knew they were done. They finished it. Now they could just relax, eat lots of Oreos, potato chips, pickle juice. So another note, I think we overpacked Oreos, underpacked potato chips, just because the salt tastes like amazing, like after a run. And we went through the potato chips super fast, like by the beginning of the third day, or by the beginning of the third legs, you're gone. But anywho, We go from being tense, cheering other people on, because now it's not about us anymore. We don't have to worry about what we got to do ahead of us. We're just cheering on our teammates, cheering on people who are struggling, whatnot. We see them walking in a honk, or you got this, or some music or whatever. We get them to like walk faster or get running again. That's encouraging. I think it's encouraging for both. I think we get more excitement from it than the runners do. I'm sure they'll just run for like 2 seconds, then they'll get walking again. But whatever. That's kind of the magic of Hood to Coast, though. You see so many people trying their best running their race. And I say that in the build up to 29 because I think that and 5 are the 2 hardest legs of the race, and they're assigned to the same people, right? That's Rebecca, and she's pretty cool. She probably runs the most out of all of us, so I signed her that specifically because I knew she could do it, and she would not just survive it, but she would crush it. So those legs I usually send to myself, and specifically 29. It's like probably my favorite leg. Pretty special for me because I think it just sums up the entire Hood to Coast in that one leg. Where it's like 300, is that 300 foot? It's like a 600 foot, yeah, it's like a 600 foot hill for the first 3 miles. No respite, maybe some flat areas. But as you're running, you're struggling because you are. Vans are driving by with music and cheering you on, just like what we were doing. And like the summit, the local summit there, the top of the 600 foot hill, there's like a bunch of vans, like 10 vans parked there with music, and sometimes there's a flag. Sometimes vans will just follow you and hype you with music. It's really fun. Once you get to the top, then it's all downhill. And it's like the third leg, the Hood to Coast itself. You send it, all the energy you have left, you just put it on the course, fly downhill, feel amazing by the time you finish your leg. So I hope that Rebecca had something like similar to that. I was running my leg when she was in the van talking about it. So again, I do my thing. It's like 5.88 miles of rolling hills. Kind of bide my time. And then I do what I normally do. It's like a kind of a basic strategy that most like runners need to learn. It's, I think technically called sit and kick. Or just run at a pace you know you could do. Make sure you have gas in the tank, and then the last half or last third or whatever the distance is that you know you could do, save it for that, and then you sprint towards the end. Because I always feel like the last lap is the best lap, because when you finish strong, then you're gonna want to keep doing it. How many miles have I done? Oh, 4 miles? Yeah, I'll do another lap. What was I gonna say? It's a beginner strategy just because if you're trying to PR, it's not the best strategy to have. Like as you get more advanced and more comfortable with the running, you want to like brush right up against the wall, like ideally like bonk, run out of gas just as you're crossing the finish line. And you don't know where that line is. So when you get more comfortable, you can start pushing it until you get really close. And most of the time when you're going all out, you're gonna fail. You're gonna blow up. That's how PRs are made though. But I save that for people who are a little bit more advanced, because I don't want them to get crushed. When you have a lot of experience, when you're already running and you know what you're doing, it's not gonna kill you as bad if you blow up like 4 miles into a 6 mile leg or whatever, or a race. I still do the beginner because maybe my ego's too fragile. And plus, it's like a fun run. It's not like an official race, and that's kind of the mindset I go into it. It's more of a fun run. It's a team effort, and I think that's why it's so appealing to a lot of people, because all the legs are different distances, different elevation profiles, so you're not really comparing against other people. You're just out there running your best race, having a good time with runners in your van, sharing stories, whatnot. And through that struggle, friendships get made and good time is to be had. So I finished my leg. Again, we have more friends who live in like Warrenton, which is like a city that's outside the seaside. Super appreciate it. We do the same thing. We eat at like a local food cart. We shower. And we crash for a few hours until Van 2 finishes their legs. But then it's just about 6:30, almost, yeah, around 6:30. So we finished the whole thing in almost exactly 36 hours. So that was interesting that each van section finished their stuff in almost 6 hours even. And I feel like when you get to the end, it's kind of a little anticlimactic. This is the most fun it's had, where everyone's still in the middle of their struggles. And once everyone finishes, like, I think the peak is when each runner finishes like their last leg. And again, that's a trade-off, because for Van 1, the most exciting part is like the end of 29 or 30. And then they're just kind of, call it like race hangover, just tired, waiting for another 6 hours. Whereas Van 2 is still like super excited all the way through to the end. So Van 2 finishes 36. We get to finish alongside the Dead Jocks. So it's the team from the movie. So that was, at least for me, who's seen the movie, it's kind of like a geek out moment. I don't know if anyone else ever really cares, but maybe, I don't know if a lot of people want to get pictures or selfies with them or not. But I wanted to get a selfie with them, and they took a selfie with us, which was great. Then after that, I think we just head home. So yeah, I think that's about it. But yeah, I think the biggest takeaway is, put away your ego, put away your expectations of how long it's going to take. Because at the end of the day, the end of the race, it's like something in the hours, and it's really hard to compare days or whatever. Just be there to have fun, help everyone celebrate their accomplishments. It's surprisingly easy to do. It's pretty accessible. Plenty of people do it without no training whatsoever. And it's a great way to get into the sport. I think I really didn't take running seriously until I did my first hit the coast in like 2017 or something. That was a long time ago. So that's the first takeaway. Second takeaway is, do I recommend people not train? Absolutely not. Because you could do it, you could survive it, sure. But in order to actually enjoy it, or at least enjoy it better, is to have some sort of aerobic base. If nothing else, to like reduce the amount of pain that you're going to be in, because it is going to hurt if your muscles and your lungs aren't used to it. Some sort of aerobic base, not anything like crazy. And I may post some thoughts on training a little bit later on my blog. Last takeaway is thank your captain. You have no idea how much work it is. Say the number crunching, the stuff that I'm good at, like Excel spreadsheets and blah blah blah, when they meet people, time, that's the easy stuff. The real hard stuff is, like I said at the beginning, just getting people together, getting vans, places to stay, lots of phone calls, text messages, whatever. And then getting fill-ins when people drop. So that's like incredibly stressful. So yeah, thank your captain. Know that it runs on the generosity of the runners. So think, like I said, the registration cost is like $2,000. Divide that by 12. Ends up being like $180 per runner, but it easily costs at least $50 or $60, if not $100 more than that, when you calculate all the other things that are involved, like gas, food, etc., etc. Yeah, just acknowledge that. Have fun. And yeah, I think that's about it. Now that the race is over, I think everyone's just still kind of excited about it. But glad it's done. I'm glad it's done. I'm glad it's only once a year, because it is a lot of work. And then registration starts at the beginning of October, so have a month to recover and then start all over again. If you're new to running and you want to do it again, well, then I'll see you next year. You did it just to see what it was all about. You decided it wasn't for you. Well, we thank you all the same. Couldn't have done it without you. And if you decide to do it sometime in the future, well, you know where to find us. And I think that's about it. So I'll sign off here. Sign off here. So peace.